Christmas week has just thrown him right off.
That's understandable. Throws
Just
most
throws
people off.
everybody off. Exactly.
Okay,
you need to not be noisy, sweetheart.
Oh, no, he's just throwing in his 2 cents.
All right.
You good?
I'm good. Hold on. I have 2 more treats and he knows it.
I counted.
Exactly. He's like, I know you have good stuff. Okay.
All right then. Hello everyone. Welcome once again to Editing Academy. Darryl.
Laura.
Red light blinking.
Red light blinking.
Awesome. Welcome to part 2 of what year?
It is the 2011 Best Picture nominees for movies released in 2010.
And what are the movies this time?
All right, so the movies we watched last time were
Yep.
127 Hours, Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, and The Kids Are All Right.
Okay.
This batch of movies is The King's Speech, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, and Winter's Bone.
All right. Before we get to the very end, I'll go through the other notables again just as a reminder so
Yep.
we can do our final analysis thing.
Okay.
But other than that, what were the 2 we moved forward? Inception and The Kids Were All Right?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't quite remember, so
Yeah.
figured I'd ask. All right. So let's dive in with The King's Speech, shall we?
All right, before we do it though, can I say an overall?
Absolutely.
Even having moved those 2 forward, I think this 5 was the strongest of the 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like this 5 was a joy to watch, all 5 of them. Even
Uh,
the ones that were hard to watch were joy to watch.
Yeah, and I firmly do believe that all 5 belong in the Best Picture nomination category. We'll definitely be talking about that with Toy Story 3 because it's an animated film.
Yes.
Whereas the prior batch, I did struggle with 1 or 2 of them being in the Best Picture, even if we were doing 10. Anyway,
We had trouble moving forward.
yes, we did.
Okay. The
Um,
King's Speech.
The King's Speech. So, King's Speech, directed by Tom Hooper, written by David Seedier. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Stars Colin Firth, Jeffrey Rush, Helena Bonham Carter, Guy Pearce, Timothy Spall, Derek Jacobi, Jennifer Ahle, E-H-L-E, and Michael Gambon. Was nominated for a ton of stuff. Best Picture, Director, Actor, Supporting Actor for Rush, Supporting Actors for Carter, Screenplay, Art Direction, Cinematography, Costume Design, Film Editing, Original Score, Sound Mixing. It won for Screenplay and did win Firth his Oscar for Best Actor. Hooper won for Best Director, and it did win for Best Picture. Go with some interesting stuff.
Okay, so first of all, the summary. This is the story of King George VI, his unexpected ascension to the throne of the British Empire in 1936, and the speech therapist who helped the unsure monarch overcome his stammer.
I have nothing for you.
You can
by
push
the way.
him down. Fun facts. The screenwriter was a stammerer when he was a child, and
Oh.
he always wanted to make this movie, knowing that King George was. He wrote a note to the Queen Mother, who was, the king's widow,
Yep.
and she said, "Please do not make this movie in my lifetime. It was too painful." So he waited for her death and then made the movie,
Oh.
which I thought was kind of lovely.
Yeah, it's also like it was respectful as well.
Yes, exactly. And also for Jane Austen fans, one of the best adaptations of a Jane Austen book was the mini-series Pride and Prejudice, which starred Colin Firth and Jennifer Earle, who played Lionel's wife.
Okay.
And so for all of the fans out there who, this was the quintessential Jane Austen adaptation, the scene of Colin Firth meeting Jennifer Earle was amazing.
No. Sorry, but
That's okay. Wally's here giving his 2 cents.
all right. Any other fun facts? Or?
The only other fun fact is that Churchill was misportrayed. He was not a supporter of King George. He wanted King Edward to stay on the throne, and he thought he should have been able to marry Simpson. So it kind of misportrayed him a little bit.
Okay.
He, when the abdication took place, became a very loyal supporter of King George, but he didn't want that abdication.
From my understanding, and I don't know a heck of a lot about Churchill, but he was a very loyal supporter of every monarch that he
Yes.
served with.
Absolutely. I've read the same.
Okay, so I'm going to start off a little heavy with this one. I really do enjoy the movie. I enjoy the execution of the movie. I really don't think there's a bad performances. Some are better than others, but I don't think there's a bad performance. I do think, however, in the watching of this movie, there's a slight inherent flaw in just the setup
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to talk about that in the beginning so I can get that out of the way and then talk about the enjoyment of the movie. The flaw is, and we're going untitled, the King's Speech. So this
Okay.
entire movie is built up to this one monumental speech at the end, and I don't think there's enough gravitas in the build to make the moment of that speech super important.
Okay, so I disagree with you completely.
Okay.
Because I think it's a perfect double entendre, because it's not just the king's speech that he makes, but it is the
Yes.
king's speech.
Yes.
And the way in which he speaks. Because for me, the greatness of this movie is it is about what could be a small thing, which is a stammer of the king. But really what it's about is a man who has to figure out how to show the gravitas to get his country behind him, to get embroiled in a world war. So it's basically, so it's something that is so small that it is about his speech and the way that he has to like basically get a nation behind him, and how he grows as a person. So not just the speech that he makes, but the way he finds his voice, so to speak.
And I agree with all of that 100%. I think the premise of this movie is a beautiful premise. I guess my flaw in it is the execution of the speech at the end. I was expecting something more, either to just go by beautifully or to have it be like a more monumental moment. It's a monumental moment for the country.
Right.
It's a monumental moment for him because he's supposed to be there to reassure the country as they move forward in war. And I just didn't feel that in the moment of the speech, it was as important as the entire movie was kind of building towards.
Okay, and I found the opposite. I thought that it was. So that's interesting that it hit us differently, even though we both really enjoy this movie.
And I recognize after doing some of the online chatter and things that I am definitely in the minority in this opinion, and I'm fine with that.
Oh yeah, no, and I can see where it hits differently, but again, for me, and also like for me personally, and maybe this is why it hit me a little bit differently, I find that period in history incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
The Europe in the 30s, and just the fact of sliding doors. If Edward had remained king, very much there would have been appeasement. He was wicked into Hitler, and Germany would have potentially won the war.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just seeing the sliding door of, okay, so because of the abdication, but not only that, because England went into the war, but how did they get into the war? Because they rallied behind a king that they could trust. So I really liked the smallness of the bigness.
Yep. And I agree with all that. I think it's just like I think we had slight different expectations of what that moment was supposed to be, and that's fine.
Well, and I can see what you're saying. Like at the end, the speech, and then the end.
Yeah.
And you wanted something else there, and it was enough for me.
One of the things that I did enjoy about the film, and I thought it was a wise choice, and it's obviously the writing, not the direction, but the writing, was that very early on, it's established that we're not going to cure this.
Mm-hmm.
It is, we're going to have you overcome and be able to live and manage it.
Yes.
And I thought that was a very wise choice because a lot of these kind of set up obstacle type movies, the ending is overcoming and everybody's happy and triumphant.
No.
And that was not this. And that was set up very early on. So the expectations get managed as you go through. Why is he still stuttering? Why is he stammering? Why is he struggling so hard? Well, that was set up early on, that this is not an overcoming moment. And I like that was a choice. Again, it's a writing choice, but I like that as a choice for the movie because I think it helped get everybody into the film and helped, again, manage expectation.
Nope, I agree. And I also liked the way they had him speak. They had him able to speak without a stammer when he couldn't hear himself.
Yes.
So you could see there was some kind of psychological piece to this, even though he didn't really want to admit that at the beginning.
And it was hinted at in this film, and they didn't really officially know it at the time, but we now know it 100%. That the singing portion of your brain is different than the speaking portion of your brain.
Yes, I loved that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was good. Like it was a moment of we're starting to figure this out. We don't know it concretely, but we're starting to figure these things out, and I like that.
Yep, I agree. Can we talk about the performances?
Absolutely.
Because I want to talk about Colin Firth, but I think the star of this was Helena Bonham Carter.
100%.
Because also, so this is the year when one of the Harry Potter movies comes out, where she is an over-the-top crazy mad woman.
Yep.
And this is such a quiet little role, and she isn't often quiet in her roles. She
No.
usually takes super over the top roles, and just to see her be like humorous and demure, and yet she rules that relationship, and I just thought she did a beautiful job.
My note is Helena is the standout for me.
Yes, yep, agreed.
You're right. She could have played this a bunch of different ways, but she plays it a little bit more demure, a little bit more subtle. Her understanding of each situation as it develops is brilliant. Like, she's completely fine being in her position,
Yep.
and then when the king abdicates and she realizes, oh, now I'm going to be queen.
Yep.
She's completely accepting of that. My favorite scene with her is the one where she gets introduced to the wife.
Oh yes. Oh no. Yes, I know which one you mean. Yeah.
And she just basically very quickly lays out what the rules are for addressing her. It's
Yep.
it's mom, not ma'am.
Yep.
But does it very calmly without any sort of disrespect. She's like, "This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now we can
Let me
move
help
on."
you. Let me help you with that.
Exactly.
I'm not going to have you falter.
And now we can just move on and be friendly.
Yeah.
That was such an awesome scene.
I thought you were going to mention, and I love that scene. The other scene that I love is when they go to the summer house or winter house where Wallace has set up house.
Oh yeah.
And she basically says hello, and the Queen Mother walks right by her and basically goes to greet the king, because you greet royalty first.
Mm-hmm.
And she is very much about the rules, and this is the way you do things. And her having her little chat with Churchill in the corner, I really loved that, because she's just like, no, I do not have time for you. She wasn't terribly rude. She just walked by her and did what was supposed to be socially done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I loved that. And with the being demure, she was still very strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's hard to pull that off.
There was a confidence that she was able to exude, but it was a soft confidence. It was not a strong dictatorial kind of confidence.
Yep, exactly.
I have a note that I'm not entirely sure what it means.
All right, let's find out.
Oh no, okay, I understand what it means now. So the secondary plot line, or maybe it's a tertiary one, of Bertie kind of having to come into his own.
Mm-hmm.
It's established very early on before the abdication that he is the better choice.
Yes.
He's better suited for this, but it's not going to happen. He's struggling with, what his father thinks of him, what he thinks of himself, all of that.
Yep.
Pretty established pretty early on. And then with the abdication, he now has to take all of that insecurity and squash it, overcome it to become what everybody needs a king to be. And I like that they were able to establish that, and that transition was expertly done by Firth, but also just the way that they portrayed that I thought was very, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the scene where, I can't remember if it was the Archbishop or the religious figure, Jared Jacobi, is basically saying, you have to do things my way, that's my job, I advise you, and essentially saying, then you do what I say.
Exactly. It's not advise, it's direct. Yeah.
And Colin's like, yeah, no, I'm my own person. This is what I've been taught to be, to make my own choices, and so I am making one, and you, as my subject, have to do what I say. I liked that moment because it was the first his first exploration into, oh no, I can do this, and I'm confident enough to actually do it now. I like that.
Nope, I totally like that. And another scene that I loved, but I found it heartbreaking, was, at the beginning you establish he's a great family man and a wonderful father, and he likes to be playful with his children. And then the scene where his children kind of bow and curtsy to him, and they have to keep a distance almost to him, and they treat him with a formality that they hadn't previously. And you can just see all of the heartbreak on Colin Firth's face. He says nothing, but because of the scene that had set up what their relationship was, and now this new scene, and he's like, oh, this is what this means. It was just heartbreaking and beautifully done.
Well, I do believe that Helena was the star, the breakout performance for me. I in no way mean to take away from Colin Firth's performance.
Agree.
Because he was able to play things incredibly well. In fact, I think this is probably one of my favorite performances of his. Just he was able to inhabit it and exude what he needed to. Anytime you play an affliction, it's a very common thing to go, like, I'm going to play an affliction, think Forrest Gump kind of stuff. But this one is a more difficult one because it's a speech.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
And he did it beautifully. He did it beautifully, flawlessly. He was able to stammer when it was appropriate and we needed him to, so we could understand the affliction. He was able to battle with it, overcome it at times, exactly what you would expect someone with this affliction going through all of this would do. And I think he just nailed the performance. She's still the standout, but I didn't want to take away from his performance at all.
Nope, I agree, and I would say the same thing about Jeffrey Rush, is I think that he gave that role, to have the confidence to say to, what was he, the Duke of York, when they started their relationship? To say to the Duke of York, no, I get it, and that's fine for you, but if this is going to work, it's going to be on my terms, in my place, and then to also be able to stand up when you realize that, I don't have any credentials, I don't have any education or learning, but I've done this and I've successfully done this, and you still need to listen to me.
I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing, and I've done it well in the past. And I loved his confidence and his, it wasn't a bravado, it was just true confidence in, I can help you with this. And I thought he was very good as well, but I think he just had a little less to play with.
Yeah, I agree. His role wasn't quite as meaty. It was a functionary role, and he served the function of that.
Yep.
But you're right. It was just not quite as meaty as the others were.
Yeah, but solid standout movie.
This movie, and we've talked about this, or I in particular talk about this quite a bit, this is an example to me of you can make something that you don't care about interesting.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or make something small be epic.
Yep, and tell an engaging story for 2 hours or however long this was. It is possible. Just a lot of times people don't do it.
Yes, exactly.
I have nothing else for this.
Nope, fantastic movie.
Brilliant. Let's move on to The Social Network. Social Network, directed by David Fincher, written by Aaron Sorkin, fantastic combo. Based on the 2009 book The Accidental Billionaires by Ben Mesrich. Stars Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, Justin Timberlake, Armie Hammer, Max Minghella, Brenda Song, Rashida Jones. There's quite a few others, but those are definitely the main ones. Was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor for Eisenberg, and Adapted Screenplay for Sorkin, Cinematography, Film Editing, Original Score, Sound Mixing, won for Score, and did win Adapted Screenplay for Sorkin, which I think was absolutely deserved.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so summary from IMDb. As Harvard student Mark Zuckerberg creates the social networking site that would become known as Facebook, he is sued by the twins who claimed he stole their idea and by the co-founder who was later squeezed out of the business. Pretty solid.
Fair.
Yeah, okay. So one of the funnest fun facts I found is that I don't know if you know they're making a sequel right now.
I had heard that, and they've been trying to for a while, I guess, but it keeps falling out.
Yeah, it's cast, they're filming, it's happening. It's called The Social Reckoning, and it stars Jeremy Strong as Mark Zuckerberg. Jesse Eisenberg chose not to reprise his role, and Aaron Sorkin is writing and directing.
Okay.
So that makes me a little bit nervous because I loved the original director, so yeah.
I've seen some of Sorkin has directed before, and he's kind of hit or miss.
Mixed results.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think another fun fact is, were it not for Facebook, we would probably not be here because we met up on Facebook in a post-high school world
that is true.
Of, hey, let's go out and have a beer, and started talking about movies.
That is 100% true.
So that's a fun fact.
Social media can be used for good.
And evil.
Mostly evil, but...
As we see. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I will start out very heavy with a lot of love for this film. I love this movie. I love the framing of this movie. There's very little...
Loved the framing of this movie.
Nice job. There's very little that this movie does incorrectly, and I think most of the incorrectness is in a minor performance here or there. The way the story is told, and we've talked about this a lot, it's sometimes a movie will take on a very long time period and it's just too much. It's better to focus, and it works, the framing works better if you focus on just a moment.
Yep.
This one does both. It focuses on a very small period of time, but with the flashback tells a complete backstory. Both are separate, but they both work very well together, which is rare in movies.
Yep, I agree with everything you say. I also love this movie. I love the framing of it, the way that we're given nibbles at a time, even
Yep.
though I think most people who saw this movie in the time knew the general outline of the story. But like, I did not know the Andrew Garfield part of it. I knew about the twins. I didn't know about the co-founder being squeezed out. So I thought that was interesting.
I'm going to disagree and say I think a lot of people who saw it were surprised by the backstory.
Interesting.
Because the framing that was put out there, which was very purposeful, was that this was a meteoric rise, that Mark had been in command the entire time, knew exactly what he was doing. He had a singular focus, and it was just and it was all picture perfect. That was the story that as it was framed.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, while the lawsuits were definitely out there in the public,
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people were paying attention.
Okay, interesting.
That's just my impression.
No, I think you're probably right. I do think too, and this is pretty much what you were saying, but like, it takes something that shouldn't be that interesting and makes it fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really should not be, a lot of time was spent with him on a computer coding or people coding, you know, like that is the kind of thrust of the movie, is how they figure out the coding piece, but it's the interpersonal relationships, it's the one person getting an idea. And I love the way that it set up the question of, okay, somebody has the idea, but someone else is able to execute on that idea. Who is the person that's actually in the right? Because it absolutely set out Mark Zuckerberg as being a jerk. He was a jerk, but he is also a genius.
Yep.
And so, you know, you've got the person who can do it, and just because the other person has the idea but has no ability to execute on it, like, who's the winner there? Who is the one that actually should prevail? But because Mark Zuckerberg's such a jerk, no one wants him to win. Which basically, Rashida Jones, I think, was a stand-in for the audience.
Yes.
Of, look, you're going to have to throw money at this because you're a jerk and no jury's going to side with you. And that's the truth.
Her line of, which I thought was an excellent line and did sum up a lot of how he was acting, is, you're not an asshole. You're just trying so hard to be.
Yeah.
Like, that was a great summation of everything up until that particular moment.
Yeah. I love her role as a substitute for the audience.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The strength of this movie is the focus that it puts on as it tells the story. You're absolutely correct that it focuses on relationships,
Yes.
not just scenes of action and history.
No.
Every scene is always about something in some sort of relationship. Whether it's the slow evolution of a relationship, the slow destruction of a relationship, the questioning of a relationship, everything is about the interdynamics that people are having as this is moving forward. And that was an excellent choice to focus on.
Yeah, and also it just kind of showed Mark Zuckerberg too, like, yes, there were relationships, but he kind of used each of those relationships for what they could give him so that he could continue to build and move forward.
Yep.
So it's like almost the girl that he breaks up with gives him the idea, or gives him the energy to move forward with something.
Yep.
The twins gave him the idea. His partner gave him the initial seed money. Justin Timberlake then gives him the money in the relationships. And so he keeps kind of like taking and discarding as he keeps going down the road to his success.
And the film, and this was obviously by Mark himself, came out and said this was not accurate. He said this multiple times, that the portrayal of him as this singular focus, everybody needs to understand what I'm doing, be on board with my vision, and if you're not and you just don't get it, then you're going to be brushed aside, even if I'm unaware that I'm doing it. Like, it very firmly establishes this is how he moves in life. You're on board with me or you're not, and if you're not and if you question, then we're going to have a problem. Which then, of course, makes him come across as an asshole. Some could say just singularly driven, asshole, whatever. It ultimately ends up being the same thing. You're with me or you're against me. There is no middle ground.
Exactly. The only con I would see in this whole movie that I thought it was a little simplistic, the bookending of I did it for a girl. You know, like I broke up with a girl and therefore I went batshit on my blog and I did all of this and, I did this for the girl, and then at the end I'm still trying to impress her. I'm still trying to be her friend. I think that's a little simplistic because I think it's about the vision and I think it's about the singular vision. I don't know that the girl had a lot to do with it. It may have had the inspiration or it may have got him enough pissed off to start something, but I just thought the ending of him still looking for that girl was a little simplistic.
And I think that ending could have been framed slightly different because as he's sitting there, keep hitting refresh so that she'll be his friend on his own platform. It is a little kind of spot on the nose, and I think that might have been framed differently as I'm not doing this for I think it should have been framed as I'm not doing this for her. She's a stand-in example of is this really working? Did I achieve what I want? If she's going to be my friend, then I've accomplished what I wanted.
I would have been just happy if they ended with he does the search and she's on the platform.
Yes.
You know, like for me that would have been enough. Is I created this platform
and smile and then
and then close it. Yeah. That would have been enough for me. Or if he had searched for Eduardo to be his friend. You know, if he had friend requested Eduardo, like that was an actual relationship I was invested in. And that at one point you do think that he feels bad for Eduardo. You know, when Napster guy is Sean, what's his name? Napster guy. Yeah.
I can't.
Anyway, Justin Timberlake. When Justin Timberlake really nails Eduardo, and even Zuckerberg feels bad for it, you realize that relationship, like you said, like Eduardo said, I was your only friend.
He was his only friend.
So I would have been happy with either of those two endings: is find her on the platform, you know, shut the laptop, or trying to friend Eduardo. Trying to friend the girl just didn't make it for me.
I'd like to talk for a little bit about the framing of the two different lawsuits.
Yes.
Because I think those definitely work and help give you the dynamics and relationships. They work in flashback. They work in tandem with each other because they were happening simultaneously. One I think is set up, and I think it helps the film as a little bit more of a frivolous lawsuit. The other one with Eduardo I think is set up to be much more meaningful, impactful, and questioning why this lawsuit ever even had to happen in the first place. Because you're right, he was his only friend, and he totally discarded him. So I liked how these two very different lawsuits were happening at the same time, but he reacted to both exactly the same.
That's interesting. That's a really good point. He absolutely did. Can I say something about the Winklevoss twins? I got two things to say about them.
Sure.
First of all, one of my favorite lines in a movie this year was, "I'm 6'5", 220 pounds, and there are two of me." Like that's just hilarious. I love that. And then just the way that they decided to have Armie Hammer play both of the twins. I thought it was pretty flawless. I could not see, it was seamless. I could not see where the guy that was the stunt double for Armie Hammer was there. It looked to me like two Armie Hammers.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. The technicality of how they were able to
really
pull that
well
off.
Done.
And, you know, I've seen this film enough that I do occasionally just kind of focus when they're both on the screen to see if you can see something. And you can't, or at least not to my eye, I can't.
And even when they're doing crew, like they are, like when they're in that pool machine and doing crew, like they are moving a lot. Like there's a lot of strain to the face and the veins and the muscles, and it's incredibly well done from a technical point of view, let alone all of the things that we're talking about, the structure of the movie.
And we'll take, of course, the Armie Hammer of it, unfortunately, we'll take that out of this conversation.
Yes.
He does do a very good job of actually establishing two slightly different people. It's not just one person that he's embodied in both.
You've got the more aggressive, and then you've got the one who's like, well, you know, this is against honor. And then he gets pissed off, which is funny.
In fact, I don't think there's a single person who is miscast in this movie.
No.
There are some where I think the performances are a little bit weaker. I can't remember the character's name, but the thirds with the Winklevosses, whoever that guy was.
Oh yeah.
I think he played it a little bit too aggressive over the top, but it wasn't a bad performance.
He was fine. Yeah, he was fine. And a lot of the women just didn't have a lot to work with, but they did. Like Dakota Johnson, that was probably the first time we've seen her in film. She did great. Brenda Song, I loved her. So I thought a lot of them did well with what they had, but they just weren't fully drawn. It
wasn't really, I mean, Rashida I think was probably the strongest female in the entire movie. It wasn't really a movie that was focused, it was a male focused movie telling the story of how these men interacted with each other, and it wasn't that the females were irrelevant, it's that their characters were not drawn out because that's not the story they were telling.
Agree.
They could have been maybe a little bit stronger, but Aaron does write women really well.
He does. I mean, Allison Janney, you know?
So this movie just fires on all cylinders for me. It is, in my estimation, very close to perfect.
It is a very strong movie. Totally agree.
Shall we move on to Toy Story 3?
Toy Story 3.
All right. Produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. At this point, they were 100% bots. Directed by Lee Unkrich. Written by Michael Arndt. Stars Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joan Cusack, Don Rickles, Wallace Shawn, John Ratzenberger, Estelle Harris, Jodie Benson, and John Morris. There's others, obviously, but those are the main characters that we've come to know. It was nominated for Picture, Adapted Screenplay, Animated Feature, Sound Editing, Original Song. It did win Best Animated Feature and Original Song. Go with some stuff.
All right, so the IMDb summary. The toys are mistakenly delivered to a daycare center instead of the attic right before Andy leaves for college. And it's up to Woody to convince the other toys that they weren't abandoned and to return home.
This is a lot, but it's accurate.
I don't think they could summarize all of it, probably. A couple of fun facts is that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen filmed their scenes together, which is usually not done in voice acting.
I had heard that, and I think they did that for all of them.
I think they definitely did it for the first one and this one. I don't know about the other ones, but it would make sense. I don't know why not do it for the other ones.
Yep.
And it actually they insisted on it, so it wasn't the director's choice. And also, you know Ken's closet that has all of the clothes when he goes through that? So Ken was played by Michael Keaton.
Oh.
And the Letterman,
I didn't know that.
The Letterman jacket in there had a big K on it because Michael Keaton went to Kent State University.
Ah.
And so they wanted it to be his little nod to Michael Keaton.
Okay, so with this one, anytime there's a sequel to a movie, obviously the sequel benefits from what you already know, character development, things like that. I think this story could not ever be a standalone story.
Agreed.
If you did not understand the relationship of these characters already, you would be completely lost for at least the first third of the film, trying to figure out why these people are doing what they are, why these toys are doing what they are, why they have these dynamics, everything. So I think we need to acknowledge 100% that this is not a standalone film and it benefits from the two films prior. That said, I 100% believe that this movie deserves to be nominated for Best Picture. It is wonderfully executed, building on what it had from before.
Yep. I have a bias against animated movies being nominated for Best Picture. If I were to go against that bias, it would be for this movie because I adore this movie. I think that you can have a wonderfully animated movie, and I think that you can have a strong storyline, and this just absolutely has both. And it has things going on. It's incredibly clever. It's so heartfelt. So my relationship to this movie is I took my nephew to go see it. So given the time frame, he's probably like 8 or 9. I fell apart in the movie theater.
Of course.
And so to this day, every time we get together and talk about these movies, he's like, yeah, you just I turned over and you're like this sobbing mess. I'm like, because, last time I watched it for this, I fell apart and sobbed throughout the ending because it is earned. It is, it is not emotionally manipulative at all. It makes you care about these characters and you care about what's going to happen to them and you care about their feelings. Mm-hmm. And it's, because that's a huge part of it is their feelings of being left behind and thinking that they are going to be thrown away. So it's not just they're trying to get back to Andy, but they're trying to understand what happened to them. And it's so sad when they think they have been left behind. And then it's so beautiful. The ending could not be more perfect. The toys stay together, the toys get played with, and they have one more day with Andy. So, it could not be a more perfect ending.
This movie, when it came out, was notorious and was commented on a lot for its ability to make grown men cry.
I'm sure. All right, so did you cry?
The first time I did, I have not since, because I know it's coming and I can see it all. You're right, it does not purposely manipulate your emotions like, let's say, a Ron Howard film would. Everything is actually earned. The characters that we already know and love, two things happen to all of them. One, they are reinforced as the characters that we know already, but also each of them does go through moments of growth, so they become even more, just like people do in life. Like a new experience is going to change you slightly, but they all still have their core that we've come to know and love. The villain is not a.
I love the villain.
Yes, but he's not like such a cut and dry villain. I mean, he's obviously presented one way, and then over the course of the movie, you come to understand why there's this shift and why he is the way he is, and even so, that villainy does get earned in its own right. It's not good, obviously. He is the villain, but you understand why all of this is happening. So even that is earned.
They give him an incredible backstory.
Yes.
You actually feel sad for him
Yes.
in that moment. The other thing it does, though, is he doesn't start as we don't know that he's a villain when he starts out.
Yep.
So, Ned Beatty, I think, so it was Ned Beatty that did this. He was spectacular because when you meet him, he's got this like soft grandpa voice, and he is very sweet, and he lures you into, this is going to be lovely. And then when he turns, he becomes the villain, and he gets that harder edge to his voice, and it's really amazing the way he turns and he takes you with. And it is also for kids. I would think this is scary. You've got a scary villain, you've got scary things that are happening, and then the fire at the end, that's terrifying.
And there are many points along the way where he has the ability to change, and he does a little bit each time, but there is no like big cathartic moment where suddenly a light bulb goes off and he's like, I now understand. Like, it takes a while for that progression to actually happen. And I like that they chose to do that. There are multiple moments where he could have done the right thing. He questions for a second, you can kind of see it, and then he still does the wrong thing.
And he gets a great ending because he doesn't die, he doesn't get destroyed, anything like that, but he ends up with a very unhappy ending, and it's perfectly unhappy.
You might want to close your mouth.
Because, Sid the garbage truck guy is the bully from the original Toy Story.
Oh, that's right.
So he ends up with the kid that had bullied the toys in the first place. The villain ends up with him. It is perfect.
Until you said that, I never put those two together. That's awesome.
Yep. So I do. I love that.
It just in defense of this, and I know you have your bias, but I'm going to just throw out a couple things in defense of why I do believe that this is deserving of the nomination. So anything you can throw at this film, there have been other nominated films that have done it lesser.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. My bias is fully on not having the people's faces. So I would say the same thing for Avatar. That's entirely what it is you draw their emotions rather than see emotions on faces. So, but again, I would love if I could get over myself, then this would be the movie I would get over myself for.
And I would agree for the other ones that were nominated. I don't think that they deserve to be in that category. My argument simply is, and I'm not trying. I'm trying to erode your bias slightly.
I would put this in there above the 5 that we saw last time.
Yep.
So yes, I would think in this particular year, it is one of the 5 strongest movies. So I guess I would nominate it this year.
Good for
if
you.
That helps.
Look at you growing.
And changing just like the toys. And again, kind of the just like the toys is Tom Hanks. Woody being the leader and being the cheerleader and trying to do all of the right things. And at the end of the day, like he thinks their mission is to be there for Andy, but really it's to be together and to be together as a unit and to play and to be there for children to play with. So he has to change his mind that it's not always just to be there for Andy, it's to be there for children.
Yep. There's so much that gets animated movies, just like sci-fi movies, they can get away with a lot if they're well written because of the format by which it's being presented in. That the message is they more settle on you as opposed to like get pushed at you.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Nope, I totally agree. Have you watched the other Toy Stories?
I've watched them all.
All right, I stopped at this one because I think it's a perfect ending.
It is. The rest of them are good.
Yep.
But this is like the pinnacle.
Yeah, that's why I will probably see the others at some point. I don't know, I may have to see the others at some point. But this one for me was the ending could not have been beat.
Yeah. I have nothing else for this.
Nope, great movie, highly recommend.
All right, let's move on to True Grit, which is a remake. Produced, written, and directed by Joel Cohen and Ethan Coen. is an adaptation of Charles Portis's 1968 novel. So they and they even said they didn't look at the movie True Grit. They went back to the original source material and reworked it. It stars Jeff Bridges, Hailey Steinfeld in her theatrical film debut, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, and Barry Pepper, nominated for a ton of things, and I'll just state up front, it didn't win a thing, but nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor, Supporting Actress for Hailey, Actor for Bridges, Adapted Screenplay, Art Direction, Cinematography, Costume Design, Sound Editing, Sound Mixing, and again, just did not win.
I would be interested in who won Best Supporting Actress that year, because her role was fantastic.
It was, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. I think there's a little bit going on there, but we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right, so the summary. A stubborn teenager enlists the help of a tough U.S. Marshal to track down her father's murderer.
Straight to the
Sounds
point.
good.
This is a lot, but that is the plot.
All right, and so I only have one fun fact, because I had a feeling with the Coen brothers you probably have some fun facts as we start talking about it.
For this film, I don't.
Have you ever watched the original '69 movie?
I did years ago when I was probably like in my late teens.
I really like that movie. So I kind of was looking at it in the lens of, and I read also that that the Coen brothers had gone back to the novel, not to the movie.
Yep.
But the 1969 movie and this movie had a lot in common. I mean, the basic story structure was all exactly the same.
Okay.
There were some differences here and there, but the biggest difference was, and this is my fun fact, is LaBeouf died in the original movie.
Really?
Yep, so same kind of thing, is he got clunked on the head, passed out, she shoots the bad guy, falls into the pit of snakes, LaBeouf helps pull her out and then dies of his injuries.
Oh.
And in this one, it at least leaves the door open. I don't know that it says that he survives, but it leaves the door open that he survived the injury. Whether or not he was able to make it back to civilization is another question.
Okay.
So I just thought that was interesting.
So I'm going to start out with a slightly larger thing, and
Okay.
I think we've talked about this kind of thing before. In any other year, I think this film probably would have won for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that this year, particularly with the 5 films we're talking about this time, everything is so strong that the smallest little things can kick you out of the running.
Yes.
And it doesn't take away from the film, it's just when you're going for what is actually the best and you're trying to tick all of those boxes, the minute you only put like a small little tick or half a tick into a box and everything else is fully ticked, you get kicked out. I think this is a wonderful film, and in a different year probably would have won for Best Picture. So I wanted to state that up front, because we've seen that happen before, where there's a year where it's just a super tight race.
I would say there are 3 to 4 movies that I would have not argued a bit if they won Best Picture.
Yep.
Yep.
And we'll definitely talk about that at the end, because I think it's going to...
This was rough.
I know my choice, and I'm very, very confident in it, but it was a difficult one. And again, it was going through the minutia of things.
Well, and same thing when we get to which one. My choice is a hair above its second place.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that up front, because this was just a really good year for films, and there was just very strong choices. Some very weak ones, but some super strong ones.
Yes.
This movie is also kind of... It started with A Serious Man, and then it goes into this one. This is a start of the transition for the Coens for me, not being quite as strong and as unified as they have been previous. I still think this is a fantastic film. I just think that they themselves, they were starting to, I don't want to say lose sight of what they've been able to build on before. Maybe it was them being a little bit more exploratory, trying some new things out. But this is the start. This is now in the transition for me, where their films are not as strong and as enjoyable.
All right, this is one of my favorite Coen brothers, actually.
It's a lot of people's.
And I think, I am not the Coen brothers expert that you are, but I think some of the things that I love about them is their ability to create a setting and a place, and you know, you could absolutely get the sense of where they are, the time that they're in, the people, you know, just the costumes, everybody's just a little dusty and dirty, and everybody is, you know, just the places that they're in are just a little on the grungy, seedy side, and they do a beautiful job of that. Even though, like, this is probably the freshest town that exists out in the West.
Yeah.
So I love that piece of it. The other piece of it that I love, and I know that you're going to talk about this, is the language and the dialect. Because the way they speak, their manner of speaking, the formality of the manner of speaking, like very few contractions, it seems very old westy, but there's also something incredibly unique to this movie that I wouldn't expect. Like I wouldn't expect this way they speak in Unforgiven.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and yet I see those two movies as very similar in their settings and the way that they put you in that place. So those are the two things overall that I loved about it, was how it set me where it was, and just the language and the way that they spoke, because it wasn't the words, it was, and I can't even describe it, but it was the manner of speaking.
And that I have that as one of my notes as well, as how well you are grounded in this world. One of the things that, you know, I talked about in making a good film for me is how well is that world established, how well does it play within its own rules.
Yeah.
There almost every scene that is done, whether it's on the trail or in the town, everything reinforces where you are, how difficult things are, the time period, and the way life is at that moment. Everything is reinforced, always consistently, and that is just good writing, good directing, to have all of that be consistent for you throughout. Because sometimes we've seen movies where it's like firmly established in like the first 20 or 30 minutes, and then it kind of goes away.
Nope, this held it together all the way.
Yep.
Nope, I agree.
I'm going to get to some bigger questions, which is where I'm going to start to pick things apart a little bit. But there's a couple things I wanted to mention. So let's talk about the performances.
Yes.
First one I want to talk about is Matt. Because it's easy, because you've seen interviews with Matt, and he's just such a charismatic, fun kind of guy. It's easy sometimes to forget what a really talented actor he is.
Oh, he was great.
And how diverse the characters are that he plays. You think about this character versus like The Martian, for example. Vastly, vastly different. Still, obviously, his acting and portrayal, but so vastly different. And sometimes it's very easy to forget that when you think, oh, Matt Damon's in it, okay, that's fine. You forget how well he does.
It's always going to be good because he is so solid. And sometimes I think he's better in some of these smaller supporting roles. It's almost like a Brad Pitt. I enjoy when they bring, you know, like a dash of Matt Damon or a little bit of Brad Pitt, because they just make it the whole thing so much more flavorful. But yeah, I liked this, and he played it so much differently than in the original movie. It was Glenn Campbell, which was stunt casting.
The singer?
Because he was the singer, yes. Glenn Campbell played LaBeouf, and he played him in a much more serious way. Much more, you know, like, this is my role, I have a destiny, I have to get this guy. And I think that in this role there was a little bit more humor, a little bit more swagger in the way Matt Damon played him, and I liked that much better.
Yeah, I agree. There
was swagger without cocky.
Yes. And I think everybody inhabited their roles incredibly well. Jeff Bridges is perfectly cast. Perfectly cast. I don't think there's a scene where he ever takes me out in any way, shape, or form. He is consistent throughout. There is growth, obviously, that he goes through, but he is still not a great guy, even at the end. He's perfectly cast. Haley, I think, was beautifully cast. I think there are moments, just moments, where her age does affect her performance.
Okay, I didn't see that, so I don't know if you can think of an example of when that happened, because I just thought she was solid all the way through, and that it's almost the same for a very young girl, they're putting basically the most important part of the movie is on her shoulders.
Yeah, she carries it.
And it's the same way, and I felt like it was a really good comparison to the movie. Is in the movie this was her quest,
Mhm.
and everything was on her shoulders. She was paying these men, and they were doing her bidding, and she had to prove her mettle with them.
Over
Just
and
as she,
over.
yeah, and they had, she as a young girl on the trail had to prove her mettle with these two men who were much more accomplished, and it was to me the same way of this young actress had to prove her mettle alongside, two men who are well known to Hollywood and top of their game. And I thought that comparison worked well, and she didn't take me out of it at all.
There were moments where I
Mhm.
think, I think it was just her first experience, her
Yeah.
first time through, where it could have been played just a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, she's phenomenal,
Mhm.
and she is consistent throughout.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that might be part of my problem with it, is that I think her character needed to be staunch, needed to continually rely and go back on things. But there were moments where I think just being constantly, it's not bullheaded, but so determined,
Mhm.
I think should have been done either a little bit more subtly or more slightly manipulative to get something, rather than just being like, I'm paying you, do it my way.
See, I thought that was very male and masculine of her.
It 100%
which
is.
I think that was the way she wanted to be portrayed, and she wanted to be in this man's world, so she was going to act like a man. This is a business transaction. I will get my lawyer involved. We will do this. And I loved it because it came back at the end with, I thought the actress that played her as an adult had that exact same sensibility of,
True.
I have come here, how dare you not stand up, you ass, and like, you are no gentleman, and okay, my friend is dead, but I would like to collect his body because I promised him that I'd bring him home, and just very, again, like, very no nonsense. And so I loved that the adult her did the same thing as the young her, or
Okay.
played it the same way.
And I can see that this
Mhm.
was more, I don't know if I was projecting onto it, or just something that I picked up in
Mhm.
my head where I have a preference for it. And again, I'm not trying to take away from her performance at all.
Mhm.
I just think that with probably another couple acting gigs under, she would have done some of that performance a little bit more subtly or a little bit different.
Yeah.
But that's
Have you
just
seen
me.
Sinners?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, she's
good in that.
amazing.
She's so good. Yeah.
So that was it. Okay, so here's some questions.
Can I
that
talk about one more performance? Though?
Absolutely.
Where is Barry Pepper? We've talked about this before. Where are you? Because or the guy who played Ned or whatever his name was. I want to know more about that bad guy. He was such a good bad guy. He had a moral code.
Yeah.
He's like, don't kill the girl. I'm gonna go off and do this. And I really liked that character. It's like a 5-minute guy who comes in, does something, and gets out. I loved him. And why are we not seeing more of him?
I had heard rumors, so I'm going to
Okay.
stress the
All right.
rumors,
Please don't sue us.
Uh,
We have nothing.
that he, after Private Ryan, he got a bit of an ego,
Oh, okay.
and that he was not as easy to work with.
Sought after, probably.
I'd heard that. Again, I don't know. That's just a rumor that I had heard as a possible explanation.
Okay.
I'm not saying that is the explanation. Again, just giving up.
But there's probably
Confirming
a
this
reason.
is a rumor.
There's probably some reason, but I would say all is forgiven. Please come back. Because I really enjoy seeing him on screen.
Okay, so there's two big questions that I want to talk about, which is, and where we're going to get into kind of the minutia, because a lot of these films are so strong.
Okay.
One, the actual voyage that is gone along.
Mhm.
It's a very long voyage. There are multiple stopping points along the way. Through that voyage, did you care about every moment of that voyage, or were there some that you were like, okay, I get it, move on?
I can't say that I cared about every moment of the voyage, but I felt like every moment of the voyage was important. Because it either had a character building rationale, or it showed us the place that they were living and how they had to get along on the land. So I agree with you. There's definitely some points I didn't always care about, but I thought everything had a purpose.
Everything, and I agree, I think everything did have a purpose. I think a lot of the individual moments on the trail, there were definitely big scenes, but some of those individual moments on the trail were just to reinforce the world that you were in and
Yeah.
show you were still in that world.
Fair.
And that was the only purpose of the scene itself.
Very probable.
Um,
Probable.
the big scene where they find the two bandits in the shed,
Yeah.
that was a very important scene that accomplished a lot of different things. One, we learn how good he actually is at his job.
Yep.
Two, you learn about like kind of bandit code.
Mm-hmm.
You learn about the difficulties of the things that they have to go through. How quick he is to kill. The very first time you see him,
Yep.
he's defending multiple kills that he has made.
Yeah.
So a lot of things were happening, and also the difficulty of being on the road where you're only eating beans all the time, things like that. That scene accomplishes a ton of things. But those were big standout scenes. A lot of those were
It was a little flat in between.
Yep.
That's fair.
The bad guy, Llewellyn.
Yes.
Once you actually meet him, like he's been built up and talked about
Yes.
forever. Did he meet your expectations?
No, but I loved that.
Okay.
I loved that he was just, like a normal douchey guy. Like he just, he absolutely killed and murdered her father because he wanted money or the horse or whatever it is that he wanted. I've already forgotten. But he wasn't a big bad guy. He was just an idiot on the range. Yeah.
He wasn't inherently evil.
No, he wasn't. So, but I liked that about it.
Okay.
Is I liked that her big bad was not a big bad. He was a bad guy who done a bad thing.
Yeah, and living in a time where there was a lot
Bad
of
men
gray
did
to
bad
morals.
things. Exactly. So, what about you? I'm going to turn that back on to you.
Initially, I was surprised by it because the Coens don't do things without a lot of thought and speculation. So her consistency of building up this story, which does get reinforced by the things that they hear on the trail.
Yeah.
That when you actually see him and you realize he's just a moron.
Yeah.
It was initially jarring. I think for the film it works, but that first viewing you're like, wait a minute, what? And it takes you out for a second.
So this is an interesting part so LaBeouf is after him because he killed a senator.
Yes.
Which when I see Josh Brolin, I'm like, that guy killed a senator?
Yep.
That's not part of the original True Grit movie. The John Wayne version of it. LaBeouf was just after him because, again, he's a random bad guy and I'm a tech stranger and I had to catch him. There was nothing about having killed a senator. So I don't know if that was part of the book or part of what the Coens put in to, again, build this guy up only to have him be a normal guy.
I don't know either. I never read the book.
Yeah, me either. But that would be interesting to see because the whole senator part was interesting to me for the same reason. Is like, this is just a bad guy.
He's just a moron.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
like that.
that's something that I do question because while upon rewatching, I think that totally works for the film, and I'm with you that I like that he is not this super evil thing that he's built up to be.
Yeah.
But the first watch, it does for a moment take you out, and it's both look and demeanor.
Yes.
And that I think is just slightly problematic. That for a moment you're taken out of the film when you first see that because you're questioning, this is the guy? So that becomes just a little problematic.
Yeah, and I have to say, it didn't take me out of it because I was thinking that to this girl, he killed her father, he killed her world. So he was the big bad guy because her family was her world.
And maybe I guess I was hoping that would be given a little bit more, like you see, a scene where, yes, she sees him, she finally recognizes who it is. He is it's still in her view the evil that she has been talking about. But to the others, they're like, no, he's just a moron.
He's just a guy.
Yeah. And so that difference, I don't think was, I guess, fully conveyed. You as the audience member kind of have to go with that for a little bit before you get there.
Fair. Yep, fair.
Anyway, so I wanted to focus on those kind of things because, again, when we have such strong films, small little things like that can make you take a step back and be like, well, yes, still fantastic, but...
Yeah. I think it was just fantastic. I love this movie.
All right. I have nothing else.
All right. Sounds good. On to Winter's Bone.
Winter's Bone, the last one. Directed by Deborah Granick, adapted by Granick and Anne Rossellini from the 2006 novel by Daniel Woodrow. Stars Jennifer Lawrence, basically kind of how the world got introduced to her.
Yep.
John Hawkes, Kevin Branagh, Dale Dickney, Garrett Dillahunt, Sheryl Lee, Tate Taylor. and was nominated for Picture, Actress for Lawrence, Supporting Actor for Hawks, Screenplay, and Film. Well, that's weird. Anyway, did not win anything.
Okay, so the summary is, an unflinching Ozark mountain girl hacks through dangerous social terrain as she hunts down her drug-dealing father while trying to keep her family intact.
Accurate.
Accurate. So a couple of fun facts, one of which is when they initially auditioned Jennifer Lawrence, they thought she was too pretty. And so
they definitely prettied her down.
Yeah, well, and so she did that herself to get the part.
Oh.
She flew out to New York for a second audition, because again, they were like just on the fence, and she hadn't washed her hair in about a week, and she ran 15 blocks to get up to the audition, so she was like all drawn and wet and sweaty and gross and greasy, and they're like, yeah, you're our girl. So
Good for her.
she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find fascinating is the clothes were so authentic that they were actually the clothes that they bought off the townspeople. So they went, the clothing folks went to the townspeople, bought their clothes, and bought them fresh new clothes. And so everything that was worn, or the majority of the clothes that were worn in the movie, were from the people who lived in the town where they filmed.
That's awesome.
And one of the houses was actually, I believe that one of the relatives, people who played a relative, that was their actual house.
Oh, okay.
Because they were a townsperson that they ended up hiring for the film.
This for sure is the indie film that gets nominated because it was a very low budget film. This is the indie inductee for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, this film to me is and hear me out. I think you'll get it, and you may get it right away, or it may take you a moment. This film and True Grit are essentially very similar stories. They are voyages in to achieve a goal. One is searching for something and exploring a world. The other is searching for something but looking for a particular destination.
Okay. Weirdly, I had this movie and The Kids Are All Right are almost the same film because it is an ultra-realistic slice of life of a particular family. One of them is a high-level kind of social, gay couple in California, and that slice of life and how they live and how they interact in their community. And this is a family in the Ozarks and how they interact and how they live in their community, what their familial codes are. And I thought that it was really interesting to compare those two movies. That's wild.
And one of the things I think the reason I compared those two is the Coens, as we discussed, are very good at world building. This one is
oh my god.
This is amazing at world building.
Yes.
From the very beginning, and every scene is reinforced the world that she is inhabited and accustomed to learning, and at points learning about.
Yep.
But that world is so established, and every scene reinforces that world, just like True Grit did. That's why I make that comparison.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. Like, I absolutely see the world building and the place of True Grit, but I also see kind of the familial interactions and that social fabric of the other movies too. So it's interesting that I think it's a good comparison of both.
You mentioned that it's kind of hyper real, and I absolutely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like when there are scenes in the houses, sometimes it's a trailer, sometimes it's a house, sometimes it's an apartment, but when they're actually in those places, they are cluttered, they are slightly dirty, they're very lived in spaces. They are not film. They're not a nice, clean apartment in New York or wherever. Like, they feel like real livable spaces. There's still dishes in the sink. There's things that have not been attended to in a while. Like, and I'm not saying that as a negative comment. I'm saying that as
positive. No, I absolutely agree with you. I love this movie. One of the things I love about this movie is how much they don't give you.
Yes.
So they withhold so much information, but they're also telling you a lot of information. So an example is her mother.
Yep.
Clearly, Jennifer Lawrence runs this household.
Yep.
There is something wrong with her mother. You assume that it's a mental illness, or it could be a physical illness, but I think it's more mental illness. And she has her good days when she's out there and she's helping and doing the laundry with them, and she has her bad days when she's in bed and not talking and all that. You know that her father, skips around because you're going to the girlfriend's house, and just you're my half sister and you're my this and you're my that, and like you get all of this family connection, and you understand that the dynamics are very complicated and very odd. But they don't really tell you.
They show you.
They show you, exactly. It's like, okay, my dad slept with that girl, and now you don't have to know how, you just know that they are. I love that.
Yeah, the family dynamic is beautifully portrayed.
Yep.
It is little snippets that come out, and it's also constantly questioned. Like, what is kin? What is true kin? What does kin mean? You say it means this thing, but you're acting like it doesn't mean that. There's a scene where she's confronting, all this talk about kin is
doesn't
bullshit.
Doesn't mean anything.
Like that, and I know, or I have come to understand that in the Ozarks, kin is a very strong thing. So to even question that and to have it not be the loyalty that you would expect is a wonderful choice that she also has to navigate as she's going through all of this.
Exactly. One of the best lines was, never ask for what ought to be offered.
Yes.
I love that. Because like the neighbors who are next door, I'm not really sure who they are or how they're connected. Like, are they true family, or are they kin, or are they just neighbors? But they're kind of watching over and helping to take care of, but yet they're also involved in things, and they know things about her father. And
kind of dictatorial at times.
Yep, absolutely. So it's just very interesting, the moral code and the familial code that they all have to live by. And like, someone vouches for somebody, then they are on the hook for that person.
Yep.
You don't do that lightly.
No.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more heartbreaking scenes for me was when Mom is having a bad day and she's desperately asking for help. Like, I need you to be you at this moment. I so need help. And Mom just
can't do it.
Just can't. That is beautifully portrayed.
Yep. I agree.
So let's talk about the subplot for a second.
Okay.
So the basic plot is very early on in the film. Hey, your dad has put up this house for a bond. If he doesn't end up showing up, then you're going to lose the house. Do you know where your dad is? We're going to make sure that he shows up so that we don't have to worry about this.
Right.
And then the film begins. And of course, Dad doesn't show up. We come to find out later that that's because Dad was killed.
Right.
And the people that know he was killed, I was just screaming like 3/4 of the way through the movie. All she needs is a body. Somebody just give her the body.
But they can't, because with the body, they might be able to find out who killed him in the murder. So, like, the hands made perfect sense. But yes.
I got it. Like, but all of this would go away if someone would just show her the body.
But I do think a big piece of that, too, though, is, like, Teardrop, that's the brother, said something to the effect of, basically, like, I know he's probably dead, but until I know he's dead, I don't have to do anything about it. And I don't want to do anything about it because that's going to be bad.
Yes.
So I feel like that was a piece too, is if they hid the body, then Teardrop would stay out of their business. And now with the hands, he's going to go do something, which we don't know. But yeah, I thought that a big piece of why they didn't do that at the beginning was because they didn't want Teardrop involved.
There are multiple very valid reasons that make perfect sense within.
But you're screaming at the
but I'm just
anyway.
like all of this will go away if someone just roll the body, throw it in a ditch somewhere so someone will find it.
The fact that they made her hold her father's hands while they cut them off with a chainsaw, and that she was able to do it, it was brutal, and it was but like that whole scene was. It was a great performance by all three of those women, because it was Jennifer Lawrence, who the horror was on her face, but she knew she had to do it because what she had to do. The other woman who was cutting with the chainsaw, like, this is the way we live, this is what we got to do. And there was so much humanity and emotion on the third woman, who was basically like, she can't cut her father's hands off. Like, do it, would you?
Do this for her.
Like, at least there was some essence of humanity there. But all three of those women in that scene, and they basically had just beat her to shit the day before.
Yep.
And all is forgiven because we're going to give you what you actually need.
Yep. Two things that I want to talk about, and then I'm good.
Yeah.
We've talked about this multiple times on here. This is an example for me of a film where it's the writing that is the strength of this film, and the direction just basically needs to support and not get in the way. This is not the kind of film where a director would put their twist on it.
Agree.
You follow the script, you set every scene to make sure that that particular scene comes out exactly the way it needs to, and it all stems from the writing of the script. And I'm not saying any director could do this, but I'm saying most directors, like you could probably have 5 directors come up with very similar ways that this movie would be done because the strength of it is in the story itself.
Yep, I agree with that.
The second thing I want to talk about, and this is the last performance for me, is the scene where Teardrop's in the truck and the cop pulls him up. There is so much going on in that scene, and you get so much information. You learn a lot about Teardrop. You also learn a lot about the cops in that town, because the cop backs the fuck down.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, there's just so much in that scene that is important and impactful, but so subtle and so well played out.
I agree. I liked the scene. I will say the one performance that didn't nail it for me was the sheriff. I don't know whether it was he was too pretty, too good looking, too, like every time, maybe they did that on purpose because he's made a contrast to the families and the people who lived in that town. But for me, he didn't have the same level of gravitas as Teardrop did, and he didn't hold his own in that scene. But I agree with you, the tension in that scene of what is going to happen here, the first time I watched it, it was spectacular.
Did you ever watch Deadwood?
Yeah.
So the actor from plays Teardrop is amazing in that as well.
Love him. Love Deadwood.
This one I watched it last night. I was saving this one for last because I wanted it to be fresh. And I'd seen the movie probably right around the time that it came out. I had no recollection once the movie started of what was in my head and what the movie was. I completely lost.
Really?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I knew it was good. I knew it was gritty. I knew that it was a family drama, and I knew it was something about money and a struggle for that, but it was not the movie that I remembered. I thought it was going to be much more of an indie acting kind of drama, not this well-layered story.
It was so well-layered. And again, with the, you start out, I'm just looking for my father, and then all of the townspeople, and then again, like all of their interdynamics with each other. So well done.
Yeah, and I like these kind of indie films where you have people kind of on the rise, like established actors, like most of the people in this, except for Jennifer, had been doing things well before this, just not megastars or even like
I didn't
superstars.
recognize any of them except for Teardrop, and maybe there were 2 or 3 that I recognized.
The older woman who's actually with the chainsaw.
Yeah, I didn't recognize her.
She's a character actor, been around forever. So there were a lot of people who were just established actors. They come in, they do their job, they know exactly what they're doing. And I like films where that's the case, because when you don't know a lot of people, then you don't have to worry about any sort of star quality taking you in.
Yeah. Nope, very true.
I love this movie.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence sure kicked it out of the park.
She did.
Made you see what she is going to have to offer in the years to come.
And like a lot, this was even for her, she's done a lot of subtle performances over the years, but even for her, this one is a very subtle performance. She has the emotion when it's necessary, but most of it is just like slight anger and disappointment just below the surface.
Yeah. Well, like one of the unsung scenes was when she was trying to be recruited into ROTC or get into the army so that she could get that amount of money. And the recruiter was sad for her. Like you could tell, he's like, this is not the right choice for you. And even if it were, I can't make it happen without your parents. And you're in this for the wrong reasons. And you could see he wanted to help her and didn't know how.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that scene, because that's not how a lot of recruiters are.
Yeah, but that's so sad.
Yeah, it was. Very much so. Okay.
All right, that's 5 really good movies.
All right. So we move 2 forward. I'm fine right off the bat kicking those 2 out.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's stay with these 5 are the top 5 movies of the year.
So I want you to go first and guess which one mine is.
All right, I'm going to say right off the bat, I would say there are 3 that I would have been okay with.
Okay.
I think yours that you think should have won Best Picture was not The King's Speech, and it was Social Network.
That is 100% correct.
Mhm.
Well done.
Thank you.
I am going to. This one for me is a toss-up. I'm going to say that your 3 are The King's Speech, Social Network, and True Grit.
Correct.
Okay. And out of those, it's honestly a coin flip between 2, so I'm going to go True Grit.
No, but that was the one that was right beneath it. Social Network is also
Okay,
my...
those were my 2 for
Yeah,
you.
Social Network by a hair. And part of the reason was because it was such a complicated story
Yep.
that they told in such an efficient, well-packaged way. So I think their ability to tell that very complicated story, whereas True Grit was a very simple story.
Yeah,
and it
straightforward.
was incredibly well done, but a very simple story versus very complex.
And that's what we're talking about. When you have such strong films in the same year, you have to really pick at the minutia
Yes,
of things
agreed.
to get to what you think is the best.
Yeah.
But hey,
Totally
we
agree. Yay, awesome. Agree and disagree with the Academy, but like I get it. I understand why King's Speech won as well. It was a very good movie.
It was a very good movie. I disagree.
Well, I disagree with the Academy, but I understand it.
All right, so there you go. Out of those 10, we disagree with the Academy. Let us know your thoughts, feelings, comments, all that good kind of stuff. And until next time.
Yay!